Hello, this is Miranda Johnson, and this is my library proposal, Project 1 for collection development. As a working librarian, I plan to do proposals like this for a variety of reasons, but really to make sure that we are constantly formulating good collections and interacting with stakeholders that would benefit from a good collection and just really supporting the school as a whole. Let's keep going. So the objective of the proposal, or step one, we want to make sure that we're exploring the tidal wave to determine books for collection development, exactly using those reports we will go into more later. Secondly, we want to make sure we're finding the gaps with those tidal waves finds and exploring them and then explaining them to stakeholders. Lastly, we want to hear from important stakeholders in what they think we should do with the funds and explain to them what we plan to do with the funds to see if our visions align. My vision specifically for the library is I want to make the library fully inclusive. I want to make sure we have culturally responsive materials for all students and all families and community members. Lastly, I want to add resources that are up to date, accessible, really going to support our students' educational experience. With that, the question is why? Why does this matter? And ultimately, the research backs strong library programs. We have research from Pennsylvania schools that says that student test scores that were higher were directly correlated with librarians who collaborated with classroom teachers. So we really want to make sure that as a working librarian, I am supporting classroom teachers and seeing what they really need. Secondly, we also see that school libraries provide a place where everyone has the ability to access resources. It is equitable both physically, intellectually, while also really encouraging education. And this is from the AASL. So when we're collecting input, because I do not just want to go out and buy resources, I really want to make sure that we're serving the community to the best of our means. So we have families, teachers/students, and admin. So for parents, we have family nights that we plan to go into more in a second. We have parent review boards, giving them some suggestions of what we want to do, really getting their input. And then parent emails, sending them out, reminding them of these parents' nights, asking for thoughts. Moving on to teachers/students, we plan to have class surveys. We want to build a student advisory board, really separating it by developmental groups, such as K through second, and then third through fifth. Next, moving into the admin sector, admin really wants to make sure we're meeting all of students' needs. So looking at the device learners, looking at the tidal wave reports, which is very factual, black and white information, which will help to support the different genres we need to build to, which will support different type of learners we have. Lastly, the special education department is really going to back the resources we need, and the admin's really going to support that. For student input, we have a student survey. They would start it, and then they would just fill it out. And as they fill it out, it gives them options, and it would just go forward. Okay. For parent night, we plan to have parents come in. We want to introduce the different sections of the library, really familiarize the community members with the library. We want to give an open forum so parents, community members can speak on what they want the library to look like, what resources they want us to add, what really excites them, because as community members and families get excited, so will the students. We want to make sure there's a suggestion box, maybe not physically, but they're showing them where to submit desires or wants. We want to make sure we're also offering them titles, so not just taking titles at will, but showing them these are the types of books or titles we're looking at based on the reports and our student populations. Lastly, really opening up the floor for any questions they have, answering them, supporting all parent involvement. Next, we also have tidal wave data. Looking at it, you will notice the fact that we have biography is really, really small. We have a language that's a little bit bigger, but still pretty small. And then we have a mathematics reference section. So these were the sections that we really looked at while we were looking at what books to add, books or resources to add to our library. Okay, so stakeholders basically said this. They said that we would want books or resources supporting first hands-on learning. Teachers know how important it is to keep students engaged. So hands-on learning is going to not only encourage collaboration, but also connect the thought to hand and just keep them engaged while learning important skills. Next, we have interactive technology. The students are going to want to do things with technology where they get to play around and mess with it and really be creative. So we want to find technology where they get to interact with. Lastly, the admin and families really want to make sure that all resources are supporting diverse learners and beliefs, thoughts, identities. So specifically from Tidal Wave, we noticed, like I said, 3 main categories. We need books or resources that support languages, biographies, and mathematics. Small error here, but languages, biographies, and mathematics. Evaluating and selecting resources. With that, the big things are we have to make sure that they have a high rating for elementary level students. We don't want to get books that are, let's say, for high school students. Next, we need to make sure that all the resources can be used by 70% or higher of all the learners' needs and the learner populations we have. So from the top of the top students to the student who struggles the most or has any disabilities that would keep them from being able to learn the same way any other student would learn. Next, they need to be part of those 3 categories: mathematics, language, autobiographies / memoirs. They need to be engaging, hands-on. They need to support fully what the stakeholders wanted. We're really going to make sure we're using Tidal Wave book suggestions, PromoBound suggestions, all of these resources that are really great and can last a long time. So the solution we found in the audio biographies, memoir section, we have audiobook playaways and one-to-book playaways, which we'll talk more about in a second. In the language sector, we have playaway language tablets, books on languages, and language subscriptions. In the math resources, we have the playaway tablets, we have hands-on learning resource, we have learning games, math subscription. Let's break those down a little bit more. So in autobiographies and memoirs, we have audiobook playaways. So basically what happens is it's like a little MVP player. Student plays it, they listen to it just like they would an iPod from the early 2000s. Cool thing is that all students can use these. They don't have to have headphones, but they can, which allows it to be a very intimate thing for the students so they don't feel like everyone's watching them while they can listen to them. For our students who are sight impaired, they can listen to the books and still grow their literacy. And same thing with physically impaired. These books are very easy to manage and manipulate, which supports them. They don't have to try to keep them open for long periods of times. We have one-to-book playaways, which it's a book that basically has an audio recording connected to the front of it. And while it's a physical book, which students can read and use like a physical book, it also has 2 other capabilities. One, it can read the book to them, and it tells them when to turn the page. And then it has the comprehension section where students will read and then it will ask questions. So there's all sorts of a variety of learners it supports. In the language sector, we have Playaway tablets, which is basically a tablet with preloaded information on. They're very interactive, lots of languages. When we were looking, we found some for Spanish and Russian and all these cool languages. And then also just hitting those ELA teaks, the grammar, breaking up English. So it's great. So the students who are native speakers and non-native speakers can use these tablets. We also continue to have physical books on languages. It allows them to use more of those traditional research. It gives you less deep, but more of a wider branch on different ranges of languages, which is pretty cool. Lastly, we're going to use a language subscription. And while it's free, that's great because everyone can use it. It gives daily specific practice. So just great things all around. Math resources. We have the Playaway tablet, which is an interactive resource, which I've gone over. Once again, engaging, different. We have hands-on resources like manipulatives. This is really going to keep students engaged and on track. It supports collaboration. We have learning games where the students are having fun, but they're learning about things in very authentic ways. They're staying engaged. Once again, math subscription, level instruction, allow students to grow at their own rates, tiered support. So for us to get from here to the end where everything is happening, the first thing is we want input from stakeholders. So basically, what are they going to do with this information? Do they like it? Do they support it? How would they like us to meet them with their thoughts? Next, we want to have a review committee. We want to take in the parents' thoughts and the students' thoughts and the teachers' thoughts and finish reviewing all the materials, fully agree that we like this research resources. to the last step of where we have all the resources and we make sure they meet all of our criteria. Then that's when we would start going towards the ordering. So this step, we want to break it down into 3 main chunks. We want to begin with language resources. And the reason for that is we have summer school, and in summer school there's language programs, and we want students to be able to use these resources during the language program. So that would be the first step to get them ordered very swiftly. Beginning of May is the goal. Math resources, we want to make sure we have them by the start of school next year. But we know that money-wise, we really don't get that until like September 5th. So right around September 5th, we want to order those. And then autobiographies, biographies, memoirs. Students will really use these for the more research section of the school year. And that's not until the spring. So after our winter Yeti goes back to sleep, we will start getting those taken care of. So in all, it should take anywhere between 7 and 9 months. Okay, so needed resources, just breaking them down. We have the Launchpad playaways, we have the audiobooks, we have the physical books, we have Wonder books, and we have the map manipulatives. We really looked at these resources because, for the reason I'm about to tell you, we will really break them down. So the Launchpad's really great because of its abilities. It's allows students to be interactive. They can write on it. They can touch things. They can move them around. It just supports all types of learners, even our students with disabilities. They still can have access to the same materials. Level instruction, students who advance the material quicker will get to go to harder material, and students who struggle will get to play around with it, slow down their learning pace, and really engage with the content. Next, this is really supportive to those visual audio learners who need that sound / visual site to actually like connect their learning. Nextly, we have the Wonder books. Wonder books literally support every reader, from the ones who need to be read it, the ones who need to be read it and follow along, and the students who can just read it completely by themselves, all the way to the next step is students who need to be pushed, so they ask those comprehension questions. So then they also once again support visual and audio learners. It is able to read to you, they can see it. Great tool for that. For the playaways, once again it supports all readers. It is also really supportive of time, so reading takes time, and we love that, but there's time that students need to figure out how to balance it, and this is a great way for students to listen to it as they're riding their bike, listen to it as they are eating lunch. It just really supports time management. Lastly, for the students who are really, really engaged but really, really high active, these are great because they don't have to sit there and look at a book. They can actually move around as they do. Use a playaway audiobooks. And with the math manipulatives, they're very hands-on, very engaging, very active. Students are once again gonna love them because they're engaging, but it supports those highly active students. We have those physical books. Obviously, the Wonder books are physical books, but we also pulling just a couple of regular physical books because it encourages close reading. It encourages those GT students to be able to make further connections and dive deeper. It allows students, these books specifically, really, while do not go as deep as maybe some of the other language resources, they do go wider, so that really encourages looking at differences and unity. As a whole, we're very excited for all these resources, and we're very excited to go forward with this process. So if you need me, my phone number is on the screen, and then my email is msjohnson@ccsd.net. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.